What's up, everyone? Welcome back. Today we have Bitcoin sitting at $56,900, and I wanted to discuss, are we going to see Bitcoin go higher, or are we going to see Bitcoin down to $50,000 again? Plus, we have the stock market mostly flat this morning with the SPY sitting at 550. Are we going to get a gap fill? We also have the jobs numbers coming out, and the jobs numbers were weaker than expected, which is holding the markets down currently. And we have Tesla breaking out. Uh, Will we see a gap fill on Tesla around $245? Well, we will find out about that, but today is G-Gen Friday, so I wanted to discuss crypto as well as commodities and some other stocks that we can look at that may have outpaced the market and as far as returns moving forward. So we're going to get into all of that. I hope you all are doing well. Be sure to hit the like button if you like this video, and be sure to subscribe if you want to see more. Let's get into this video. So I wanted to start out here with Tesla and what is going on with Tesla. Well, first off, Tesla says it will launch a full self-driving product in Europe and China early next year. And this news just came out, and I wanted to discuss what that means for the price of the Tesla stock. We have Tesla sitting at 223, falling down here a bit this morning, which kind of surprised me just a bit. But nevertheless, I do think that we may see Tesla go get this gap fill here right around 245. And I will explain why more in a moment. But a couple things I wanted to point out here on this chart is that Tesla has now broke back above this downward sloping trend line. As we mentioned here before, when Tesla gapped up here, and we knew that if we broke this area, that it was going to go higher and that could act as support. Of course, we lost that back in July, and we had this other bullish pennant here where Tesla did break out, confirming that Tesla is in an uptrend. It will really probably depend on the S&P and where the stock market wants to go. There is a possibility Tesla could pull back here, but it looks like we could go get a gap fill. We know that Tesla is one of those stocks that when it catches on, uh, a lot of people and retail investors start jumping in, and that could drive the price up. So um, we could see that gap fill here potentially in just a couple of days, uh, but we will have to continue to watch the price action. What else is going on in the markets? Gold attempting to break all-time highs again today at 2504. Gold has reset here on the daily RSI. So we could see gold continue to move up. If we break those all-time highs, I think you will see gold go up to $2,600. That could be coming here in the coming days and weeks. It's a real possibility. But it's going to depend on a few factors, including probably the dollar. The dollar sitting at 101.28, bouncing off our support here, as we've been mentioning since the dollar broke this upward sloping trend that we thought the dollar would come back down to around 100, and it is headed that direction. Will we continue to see the dollar sell off? Well, we have put in a series of lower lows and lower highs here for the dollar, and all these moves have been almost exactly the same. We had our first move leg down, a second, And now a third leg down. We had a little bounce here the past couple days, but it looks like that may have topped and we may be going lower, and that is positive for assets, uh, including risk on assets such as Bitcoin and crypto, and we'll discuss that more in a moment. But first, I want to point out a couple other things here on commodities. We have copper. Uh, Finding support here on our downward sloping trend line. Mentioned that when copper broke out, we thought it may move up. Right now, it is running into resistance on that 618 off that previous move. And so it looks like copper may be finding a little bit of strength here. The silver chart looks very similar with copper putting in now a higher low on the daily time frames. Plus, we have the RSIs at the bottom side of the chart. So we may find some strength here in copper. And of course, that would be good for the copper miners. Um, One other stock that I wanted to point out is the Tesla 2x bull shares. And the reason I wanted to point this out is because if we do see Tesla turn bullish, well, again, we do have this gap fill up here around 1371 on this ETF, and there was a large dark pool transaction that went through on Tesla at these levels uh, right before we saw this breakout here for Tesla. So that is one way traders or investors could take advantage of the next Tesla swing to the upside. And we are really putting in a series of higher lows now for Tesla. Tesla's been really beaten down through last year and into this year. I mentioned that here earlier this year on the channel, and I wanted to point that out because it looks like Tesla could be putting in a major kind of double bottom, if you will, from the previous bull run back in 2021. I want to go back to the SPY first before we get into Bitcoin and crypto because there's a couple things to point out here that I think are key. First off, we have our gap fill right here around 543. There's a real possibility that we come down to close that gap, but there is also the possibility we could see the stock market move higher before we come down there. We have the RSIs at the bottom side on the daily, and I do think that we will probably see some sort of rally here, potentially in the short term, in the next couple of days, either today or early next week. We have the RSIs coming down on several stocks, and we'll cover more of those here shortly. But I wanted to get back to Bitcoin because right now, Bitcoin has crypto investors worried. Have we seen a top, or are we going to go higher? It seems really split right now. The crypto uh, industry right now looks very bleak. A lot of big investors saying that they are leaving. However, um, we know that in these bull runs that Bitcoin's price continues to go up over the long term. I definitely think we see Bitcoin go much higher later this year and into next year. But first, I wanted to point out a few things on this chart. So we have been seeing a little bit of weakness here the past couple days on Bitcoin. Uh, I do think that we may see a bounce off these levels, potentially back up to around that $59,000 to $60,000 area. Um, However, what I did want to point out is I think there's still one more opportunity for investors to get in on Bitcoin and crypto before it is too late, because I do think this October and this fall is going to be very bullish for Bitcoin and crypto. But what I did want to point out is whenever we had the carry trade unwind, we had this large wick here on the daily candle, and we know that's an inefficiency in the market. And a lot of times the markets do like to come down and fill at least half that wick. So that would put us right around $52,000 or so for Bitcoin. Um, it could go a bit lower, maybe 51 or 50,000. But as long as we don't go back below this wick, I don't think there's any real issue. And even if we did, we still have our upward sloping parallel channel here, and we would probably find support on that. So I do think there is that possibility. What I also think is that Bitcoin has really been oversold here early into September. You can see the RSIs are at the bottom side on the daily. That's why I think we will probably see a bounce possibly through mid-September. And then maybe we have one final pullback in September. We know that September is typically uh, one of the worst months for Bitcoin and stocks, and typically the back half of September, especially after that first rate cut, you do see some weakness in the markets. So that is something to keep in mind. Nevertheless, I think once um, this month is over, uh, these stocks are going to continue to rally. The stock market, Bitcoin, everything is going to continue to go up. Um, and one other thing that I wanted to point out here on the Bitcoin chart is we are putting in a bullish divergence. Now, it doesn't look like it too much down here on the RSIs, but you can see we are making kind of a series of higher lows on the RSIs, and it's not really quite as prevalent here on the daily as it is on the weekly, but nevertheless, this is a bullish divergence, meaning the RSIs are going higher while the price is moving lower, and you see that on several of the charts. So I do think once we get into October and November, we probably will go back up to retest those all-time highs, and I think that Bitcoin is higher and sets a new all-time high by the end of the year. Another stock that I wanted to mention is MicroStrategy MSTR, setting at 122. This chart needs to be updated. Let me just pull this back up real quick here, guys. Sorry about that. Because there's a couple things I wanted to show you here that's really interesting on this chart. And the reason uh, I wanted to show you this is because I think there is an opportunity here for investors and traders in the short term as well as the long term. You can see here on the daily, we are at the bottom side on the RSI, and if we switch to the weekly, well, we are also at the bottom, and it looks like we are trying to turn up here at any moment. We know when this RSI is turned up, we see these big candles moving upwards. We are setting on some support here from the tops that we saw back in 2021. But more importantly, what I was talking about with that wick on the Bitcoin daily price chart is very similar here on the weekly. You can see that that big candle there. We're coming back down to retest that 50% line on that candle. So it does look like MSTR MicroStrategy will be moving higher here in the coming days and weeks. We have been on the bottom side of the RSIs back here since May. So we are heavily oversold on MSTR. There are price predictions for it to go much higher. I saw one this morning that it could go to 289. So that would be an excellent return. A couple other stocks I wanted to point out is the crypto miners uh, for two reasons. One, because it is DGen Friday. So on these Fridays, I like to bring you the most alpha possible with some of these stocks that have the potential to make the highest returns in a short period of time. And another reason is because what I mentioned about Bitcoin. I do think the bottom for Bitcoin uh, in this range will be hit in September before Bitcoin takes off. And of course, if Bitcoin takes off, well, the crypto miners will do very well. Um, Mara setting at $14.17 here. Finding some support here in this box that we have for Mara. I actually updated this chart this morning to reflect the actual price move from the bottom to this peak here that we've seen over the past year or so. And I wanted to do that for a couple reasons. One, to give us more accurate entry points, and to show you how these levels work whenever you do use technical analysis. If you're interested in learning more about technical analysis, I do suggest you find some sort of software that you can use to draw out your Fibonacci charts that you can use like in software such as TradingView. If you're interested in TradingView, there is a link down below. Nevertheless, Mara is sitting here at this support, and it is at the 618, which we know as the golden pocket. And you will see so many of these stocks, small cap stocks and cryptos at these levels right now, indicating oversold conditions. And once we do start to see those rate cuts and liquidity continue to flow into the system, well, these things should really rally. I think Mara goes much, much higher. But nevertheless, here over the next several days, I do think that we will see Mara start to turn back to the upside. Um, if we can get through some of these key resistances, you could see Mara go back to this uh, first take profit zone that I have here around 25 to $28. Another crypto miner I wanted to mention is BitDeer. I mentioned this one a couple times here recently just because I think this is one of the better, smaller crypto miners that has been doing very well lately, mainly due to AI and the AI they're using to solve equations related to their Bitcoin mining process. Right now, sitting at 604. We broke out of this downward sloping trend line. Mentioned this here when this broke out that we thought we would see this run. It failed. We did mention that we thought it would come back down to retest. It even fell below that. And so the reason I wanted to point this out is as long as we hold this downward sloping trend line, I do think this crypto miner is going to do much better. And again, all the RSIs are right at the bottom side on the pretty much all of the time frames from the weekly down to the hourly. So that means that this is probably a very good entry right here, especially for a spot buy. If you're looking for a stock to hold for the next, say, 6 to 12 months, I think this one is a winner. I think that you see BitDeer go much higher, and some analysts have price targets on it around $13. So that is something to keep in mind. If you're interested in buying stocks, commodities, or crypto, you can do so on Robinhood. Robinhood is offering a 1% boost when you open an account. Plus, they have 8 times the national savings rate. They allow you to begin investing and building your portfolio with just as little as $1, and they allow you to buy stocks, options, and ETFs and trade commission free. Plus, they offer crypto such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and many more, as well as gold. If you're interested, there is a link down below. And whenever you use that link, you will get an additional free stock when you sign up. All right, let's talk about Bitcoin and crypto and what is going on right now. We just moved into extreme fear on the crypto fear and greed index, and we have not seen these levels down this low since back in October of 2022, right before Bitcoin's price rallied to the upside. We saw a lot of altcoins rally, so that's something I wanted to point out. When there is fear in the streets, that's the time to be greedy. So that's something to keep in mind. We have the total 3 market cap of crypto, which is everything minus Bitcoin and Ethereum. You can see that we have just done a slow bleed here over the summer, putting in a series of lower highs and lower lows. Um, and right now we are finding support here on this box. I do think that this goes much, much higher. The crypto industry is projected to go to possibly $10 trillion. It's down below $2 trillion these days. So there's a real potential for much more upside on several of these altcoins. Of course, uh, these things are higher risk depending on your investment tolerance, but there are a few when it comes to crypto that I do think will do very well this crypto cycle. We know we are in a bull run, and these liquidity cycles are lining up perfectly. Um, one of those is Solana. Solana is sitting at $129, just coiling up here the last few days, really in a tight range. And really, you see Solana is holding up better than most of all these other altcoins. Ethereum's been really beaten down. Nevertheless, I wanted to point out one thing here on the Ethereum price chart. We are at that 618 zone and we are holding there. So maybe we do see a bit more of a pullback, a flush down to fill this wick here, right about where the 618 is, would be about 50% of that wick. We can zoom in here just a little bit for Ethereum so you can see that better. But you can see this wick that we had here, and on that wick about halfway down is right around this 618. So maybe we come down a bit lower, down to around 2257. I do think that is a possibility for Ethereum. Nevertheless, it looks like here in the coming days and weeks, nearly all of these cryptos are probably going to start to put in some sort of major double bottom. When you look at this and you really zoom out, of course, we have our trend line here, upward sloping trend line for Ethereum, so that will act as support as well. But really, when you zoom out on these um, over a longer term time frame, it does look like a double bottom. Another altcoin that we could look at is Cardano. Now, Cardano has not been doing nearly as well as most of some of these other stronger cryptos this cycle. Some people are calling it a dust coin. Some people say to get out. Nevertheless, what I did want to point out is here is, as I mentioned, I do think we are kind of starting to put in that double bottom where we see a new higher low being formed. And this is on the daily. This is coming down from those highs back in 2021, and you can see it's just been really ranging sideways here. It's one of those coins that hasn't even really broken out of this range except for just briefly here. um, Nevertheless, we have a downward sloping trend line as well. Once it broke out, it's come down to retest that, acting as support. So I do think you will find uh, support in this area. I don't think this will go much lower. It could, it's currency, so it could always go lower if we got down below this 25-cent level. Then I may be concerned, but I don't think that will probably happen because I do think that Bitcoin and crypto will rise this fall. So I do think this is a spectacular point to get in on Cardano. And I wanted to point out one other thing, and this is the only reason I'm really mentioning Cardano because I don't normally mention Cardano in this channel. Um, but I saw this post this morning over here on X by Dan, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, but he said, insane bullish divergence on the ADA to Bitcoin daily chart. Last time we saw this happen 4 years ago, Cardano rallied over 1,000% against Bitcoin. Now that is a stat right there. So again, bullish divergence, and what he is pointing out here in 2020 is when we were putting in a series of lower lows and a series of higher lows on the RSIs. Well, that was the signal for a potential breakout, just like I mentioned on the Bitcoin price chart. And you can see we are doing the same thing right now. And that's why I think time is running out for crypto investors and traders to get in on a lot of these altcoins. Another altcoin I wanted to mention is Avalanche, because I do think Avalanche has some real price potential, and it actually is one of those coins that has some real use cases. And right now we have come back down to this line that has been acting as support right around $21. So I do think Avalanche moves much higher, and we've got our take profit zone up here around 51 to $58 for Avalanche. That would just be the first take profit. Of course, if you zoom out on these charts, you see that they go much higher. Um, which I do suspect that we'll probably go back up towards and possibly break those previous all-time highs. And so you can see here on this chart um, where AVAX was up around $150 last crypto bull run, and I think that is just getting started. I think we probably have about another 6 to 12 months left in this stock market rally, as well as Bitcoin and crypto, possibly 18. But it does seem we are nearing the end of this cycle for uh, the stock market, and it probably does peak sometime in 2025. Same thing for Bitcoin and crypto. If you're interested in buying Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, Avalanche, and many more, you can do so with iTrust Capital. I use iTrust Capital, and iTrust Capital allows you to buy, sell, and trade crypto, gold, and silver 24/7 in a low cost, no monthly fee, tax advantage IRA. iTrust Capital has over 5,000 plus 5-star reviews on Google, and they actually have people that you can call and talk to. If you're interested, there is a link down in the description below, and when you sign up, you'll receive an additional $100 bonus for using the link below. All right, guys, as I mentioned, it is Friday, and so I hope you all are have a great weekend. But don't forget to go follow me over here on X at Mind of the Financier. I am Mind of the Financier on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, so you can follow me there as well. And I hope you all have a great day. Enjoy your weekend. I will be back here next week, guys. Also, drop a comment below if there's anything that you want me to take a look at, or if you have any questions or concerns. Um, but over here on X, I do post anything that I see that has to do with the markets, including stocks, commodities, and crypto. And so I do post over there when I see things. So be sure to go follow me over there. And until next time, guys, take care, be legendary, and